Good morning. Today we are starting our next unit. We took our test before Christmas, we worked on our graphing before Christmas. Now we're starting our next unit in math. We do have the math test coming up next week. We're doing the reading one this week on Thursday. The math one will be next week. I think if I remember right, it's on Tuesday, but I'm not 100%. But it is next week, so I'll let you know that actual date as it gets closer. But we want to try to get through as much of this unit as we can because it's dealing with some of that algebra stuff that we haven't dealt with yet. So graphing that we practice at the end of before Christmas break, we know there's graphing that's on the math test. So yeah, it was fun holiday graphs. Some of us did them, some of us did not. I want us all to finish up, even though it's a holiday graph, it's getting us ready for that math test coming up, remembering how the coordinates work, remembering how, the X and the Y axis. So it's just refreshing us, getting us ready for that. Today, we are working on CO36. I can interpret and write mathematical and algebraic expressions with addition and subtraction. So we're starting to get into that algebra stuff, really getting us thinking how that's going to work. So to start us off, we need to know what an expression is. An expression is a mathematical statement. An expression is different than an equation. Does anybody know what an equation would have that an expression does not have? Bridget? Not quite. With an expression, you'll still have steps. Equations, you'll have steps. But there's something that an equation always has. Emma? Equal sign. You're actually doing an equals, solving it. Okay, for an expression, we don't have that equal sign. So, translating a verbal phrase into a mathematical expression and vice versa can be difficult because it's almost like going from one language to another, using our words versus using the numbers. But they mean the exact same thing. I just didn't see your bite. I wanted to make sure you had it. Knowing what pickle is in Spanish is like knowing which operation difference represents. So that word, difference, does anybody know what operation that would be? Adeline? Division, subtraction. So knowing that difference means we are subtracting with that subtraction sign, it's going from one language to another. Fill out the chart below to help learn and remember some terms. So these are going to be terms that we're going to want to be putting on help sheets when it comes time for the test. So we remember when we're going to add and when we are going to subtract. Can anybody think of a word that tells us we need to add, that we need to do addition? Jace. The sum. If you need to find the sum of something, you are adding those numbers together. What's another word that means addition? Leah? The total. To find the total, we are adding everything together. What's another one? Emma? Plus. If we see plus, we know we need to add them together. What about words that might mean subtraction? Bennett? Say it louder. Difference. We just talked about that one. If we're finding the difference, we know we are subtracting. What's another one? Lexi? Less than. Now, I'm going to put a little star next to less than. And we're gonna find out why in a minute. What's another one? Emma. Subtracted from. I'm gonna put another little star next to this one. Again, we're gonna find out why in a minute. Jack, did you have one? Minus. I'm gonna write minus down here, because up here I'm gonna write subtracted by. Subtracted by and subtracted from both mean we're subtracting, but we're doing it in a different way. So it's very important that we pay attention to the specific words being used. So remember that a number is an unknown value and is represented by a variable. So when we write an expression and it says a number, we can put an X for that number. We put an N for number. You just write a letter to stand for this random number that we don't know. You may use any letter of the alphabet that you choose. I usually go with X, or I go with N because number starts with an N. But you can use any letter. It won't be marked wrong if you use a P, right? It's just any letter. Doesn't matter in what order numbers are added. So when we see the sum, what is the sum of 7 and 3? That could be 7 plus 3 or 3 plus 7. They're both going to equal 10. So it doesn't matter. It can go either way. But the order does matter with subtraction. 10 minus 8 equals 2. 8 minus 10 equals what? Kids? Negative 2. Two very different numbers on that number line. Positive 2 and negative 2 are different. So it definitely matters the order when we subtract. So I starred less than and subtracted from because we need to really think about those. So if we say 10 subtracted by 8, and then we have 10 subtracted from 8. How do you think those expressions would look? How do you think I should write 10 subtracted by 8? Emma? Yeah, 10 subtracted by 8. That would be the 10 minus 8. How would I write 10 subtracted from 8? Adeline? Yeah, because I'm subtracting 10 from that 8. So I starred less than and subtracted from because we have to flip them. Here, 10 subtracted by 8, I start with 10, I write my subtraction sign, and then I put the 8. But if it's subtracted from, or if it's less than, 10 less than 8 means we start with the 8 and we find out what 10 less than it is. So those two phrases we have to remember to flip our numbers. Make sure you star those so it's your reminder. Oh, that's right, it's starred. I have to flip the order of the numbers. You will see this on the test. You have to remember, less than and subtracted from, you flip them around. Okay? Does that make sense? Why it means we flip them around? All right. So let's look at what our work is for today. Let me erase and scroll up. This first first part says write each word phrase as a mathematical expression. So we're going to take those words and we're going to put them into our numbers. Are we going to equal anything? No, remember we said equations have the equal sign. For an expression, there's no equaling. We don't have to do the math. Right? We're just writing the expression. How would I write 58 more than 13? Who thinks they know what that would look like? What do you think, James? 58 plus 13. I would also accept 13 plus 58 because it gives us the same answer. Okay. What about 82 subtracted from 101? What would that look like? Oh, goodness, friends, look up at your chart. How would I write 82 subtracted from 101? I should see all hands in the air. What would that look like? You have to decide, am I adding or am I subtracting? Am I subtracting? Which order do I put my numbers in? How is that going to look? What do you think, Leon? What am I putting as the first number? The big one, 101, because I subtracted from 101, and I'm subtracting 82 from it. So remember that subtracted from, I put a star. You have to take that second number and put it first. It's not always going to be the big number, right? Because we are in big cube math, we work with negative numbers now. Sometimes you'll put the small number first minus the big number because the answer is going to be negative. So you can't always say, oh, big number first minus the small number. That's not the case. We have to look at the order and the words being used. Here it said 82 subtracted from 101. So I have to start with 101 and I have to subtract the 82 from it. Does that make sense? So for all of these, you are going to be writing it out. So just the expression, no equal sign. When it says a number, what are we going to put? I don't know what number to put. Do I randomly pick a number? Can I say 19 less than 5? What do I do when it says a number? Emma? You put your variable, you put the letter. So whenever we see a number, you're going to change that a number to a variable like X or N for number. It doesn't matter which letter you use, but you put a letter in there instead of the number because we don't know what the number is. With math, we don't just randomly pick. We don't just get to say, oh, it says a number, so I'm going to put 5. That's not how math works. Math is very precise. So if it says a number, you put your variable because you don't know the number. Okay? The only time it really matters what variables you are putting, just think about it. If it says a number plus itself, I'm not going to tell you what it is, but I want you to think it through. I know it was a long break and we're brushing the cobwebs off after 2 weeks of not doing math. But really think, what does that mean? If it's a number plus itself, what does that expression have to look like? So let's look at our second page. This first page was all going from our verbal phrase, the words, to the number expression. Now we're going from a mathematical expression to a word phrase. So we have to write those words out. So, my first one says 801, there's a subtraction sign, and then 475. How could I write that out? Looking back at that chart that we had that had words for each of those operations, how could I write this? Who has an idea? Emma. $801 subtracted by 475. Okay. Is that the only answer we could have? What do you think? Is that the only way I could write this out, Aiden? No, because remember in that chart we had all those different words that we can use that mean subtraction. So what's another verbal phrase that we could put? Aiden? Oh, be careful about that. This is how we worded it. 801 subtracted from 475. But remember that subtracted from had a star next to it. What did that star tell us to do? Who remembers? What is that star reminding us that we have to do? Bennett? To flip our numbers. So if we want to use the subtracted from, we're going to flip our numbers. And we're going to say 475 subtracted from 801. So remember, if you have a star next to that word phrase, flip your numbers. Okay? What's another way I could use words to write out this expression? Adeline? Yeah, I could say the difference between 801 and 475. All of these mean the exact same thing. It's just different ways to say it. I could say 801 minus 475. It means the same thing. You only have to write one word phrase, but your verbal phrase can be different than the person sitting next to you. Can be different than what's in my answer book, because there's multiple ways to say these. Right? When we see an N, how are we going to say that? What do you think, Adeline? Yeah, we're going to write that out as, hold on. I don't know why that just moved on. So, let's go with red again. See if that works. A number minus 12. A number subtracted by 12. The difference between a number and 12. So whenever you see a variable, the letter, we write it out as a number. You don't pick which number, you write a number, those exact words. James. Yeah, we could say 12 subtracted from a number. A number subtracted by 12. Right? We just have to remember that when we see that variable, when you see a letter, you write it out as a number. Let's look at the bottom of our page. Now it says answer each question. Which is greater, the sum of 5 and 10 or the difference of 30 and 9? So now we're gonna actually figure out what the expression is, do the math, and then tell me which one it is. So the sum of 5 and 15, what would that be? Nolan? Yeah, because we know the sum means we're adding 5 and 15, so that's 20. What's the difference of 30 and 9? The difference of 30 and 9. So think about what difference means, Sarah. 21, because difference means we subtract them, so that's going to be 21. So the first thing you have to do is the math. What is the sum of 5 and 15? What is the difference of 30 and 9? Now we have to answer the question, which one is greater? And all you have to do is go back and circle it. 21 is greater than 20. So you have to do the math for both expressions. Even though it doesn't say equal, you still have to figure it out. And then circle the one that answers the question. Any questions on today's math? So we have to do that front page where you write the mathematical expression using your numbers and variables. And then the second page, we are writing the verbal phrase using our words to say what that expression says. And then answering our questions on the bottom. Remember, if you have not gotten your summary sheet signed yet from the test from before break, get that summary sheet signed and turned in. Remember that we are still working on packet number 6. That's due on January 21st, so keep working on that. We have not made the video yet, but you can be working on pages that you can figure out. We did not get con assigned before break, so you can, instead of doing con assignments, get that graph done and turn it in. Okay, so make sure you're getting your graphs done. Make sure we're staying on track, including our homework done. So we're starting off January, starting off 2025. We don't want missing assignments. So let's make sure we are working on that math. Make sure that you have practice work done for any retakes you're going to do from that test. Wednesday and Thursday I am after school for retakes, and help if you're not sure where you went wrong, you need help with your practice work. Stay after school Wednesday and Thursday. I'm after from 2 to 3. On Friday is a retake day in class. So make sure, I know I have some practice works that people turned in before break. I'm working on getting those corrected and back to you. But make sure that you are looking at that summary sheet. What do I have to do so I'm ready for Friday? Okay. With that, if you are watching this at home, I hope you are well. I hope to see you soon. Have a wonderful day.